So here's my thought on the Black Panther movie. Well, I did see the movie, and the reason why I went to see the movie it wasn't because of all the hype and all of that. It was basically because I'm someone who's into Marvel and DC comic characters. I've always been into that type of stuff when I was small, and I had like a collection of DC or Marvel comic characters. I had like a book of cards, laminated cards of all the villains and the characters. And I was someone who was really into drawing. I was really good at drawing, so I would like take those characters and try to create my own characters and draw and things of that nature. So I was pretty much, up on the whole idea that this movie was just a superhero movie based on a comic book character. This Black Panther was actually introduced to me for the first time. I've never heard of the Black Panther until I was watching one of Marvel's movies, where they, I believe, featured some of the characters as the Avengers, and he showed up towards the end of the movie, middle to the end of the movie, and he was wearing the same suit. And I was like, who is that? He was hopping on cars and chasing cars and stuff like that. And he just came out of nowhere. And he looked like a cat. So I was like, is that Catman? Like, who is he? And then they introduced him as the Black Panther in that movie. So that's when I first heard about him. And that basically made me think that they would probably make a solo movie to fully introduce the Black Panther. So when the Black Panther came out, I was like, oh, there it goes. So to me, it was just a movie to introduce, like they always do, introduce a new character or a specific tell a specific character's backstory, where they came from, what their purpose is, and so forth, and then they will join the Avengers as a team to fight against evil and the villains and so forth. So that's basically why I went to, me and my husband went to watch the movie. We weren't thinking nothing about no Black Panther, blacks with the Black Panther movements or anything like that. We weren't thinking about Black Power. We weren't thinking about pro-black and blackism and blackness. We already know we're black. We didn't need anything, any movie or actors to validate our blackness. We already know who we are. So we went, with the sake, with the mind state of just enjoying the movie for what it was, a superhero movie that looked like it was going to be really cool, you know. So of course, when the movie started breaking through to the public, prior to it actually featuring, we had a lot of like crazy stuff going on with black people in this movie. There were certain groups of blacks trying to boycott the movie before it came out because of the main actor that was playing Black Panther. He was dating a non-black woman. It was some crazy stuff. And then blacks are asking for the movie makers to give 25% of whatever the movie makes to the black community, and it was just outrightly insane. Okay, keep in mind, Black Panther is not the only black superhero. There's Spawn, there's Blade that came out a few years ago. Not a few years ago, but Blade's been out forever, and they made Blade Part 2, 1, 2, 3, 4 Blades. There are other black characters in the DC comic book series as well. There's actually a black version of Catwoman. That's why Halle Berry played Catwoman. So this is not anything new. He's not the first black superhero to grace the cinema. So I understand the reason why Black Panther became such a big deal was, one, they marketing it to Africans. They featured more African actors, and it was during February, the month, Black History Month, and it was mainly just a controversial movie initially, and it continues to be controversial, and now it basically exploded in the box office and making tons of money. And my thing is, black people really need to calm down. You have black people who went to this movie, pro-blacks, blacks who are into this whole Afrocentric thing on Instagram and Twitter, talking about this has nothing to do with white people. They were making comments on photos of white people who who are dressed in the shiki outfits and so for African outfits and saying they don't have no right to put that on. This is our movie. And they started this whole social media movement for the movie, and it was just like extra. I'm just like, why blacks gotta be so extra? All of a sudden people start popping up with African markings on their face, African Americans, and again the dashiki fashion start coming out, and they're trying to do their hair and doing the pose with the arms across the chest and Wakanda forever. It's like, why are blacks gotta be so extra? It's basically a movie, and all of it was just a marketing scheme done by Marvel Comics to get black people to come see the movie. Okay, that's all it was, and it worked out perfectly for them. They're rolling in the big dough. None of y'all making that money. That money is not going back into no black communities in America. Okay, this was an African movie. Majority of the actors and actresses were Africans. Okay, this is all about Africans. Okay, not saying that African Americans can't relate to it, but it wasn't about you. And to further prove that, the movie itself even told you about African Americans and the state that they're in, especially these pro-blacks talking about white supremacy and their oppressors. They use the character Killmonger, who was the gold Black Panther, to basically show African Americans in the urban communities that they are not really the true the true revolutionaries, that it's actually Africans. And then they also had an innuendo of African blacks versus American blacks. So it was more like black on black thing going on. And depending on where your thoughts are and where you are in your perspective, you have pro-blacks who saw one perspective. You have certain groups in the pro-blacks who saw the movie in a more metaphysical way because they believe in this Anunnaki god and the black race, and basically saying the main Black Panther in the movie represented the Anunnaki, who came from outer space because he had a spaceship, and they had special technologies that they gave over, that the white man stole these technologies and are currently using them. So that was some of the elements in the movie, and that's how some groups of pro-blacks are interpreting the movie. Then you have other blacks who were interpreting the movie based on how the women were portrayed as more stronger, more fighters than the men, and the men look weak and blah blah blah. And some pro-black groups are taking up for the villain Killmonger and saying he was a pro-black. Never mind the fact that he was slaughtering black people. He killed that black girl for no reason. He was power hungry, just like these pro-blacks are. He was turning on his own people just so he can sit on a throne and proclaim kingship. Okay, and he didn't have a good heart. Okay, so it was just like every group you could think of, given their perspective, given their review of the movie. Crazy thing about it is this movie was made by white people, produced by white people. The character was created by white people. Disney, Marvel, the producers. If you go behind the scenes and watch the behind the scenes, who's behind the camera? White people. So I think it's funny that these pro-black people or these Afrocentric people on Instagram are claiming African heritage now and trying to ban white people and show up on white people. Like, look at us in our dashiki, look at us in our crowns, putting crowns on their heads and going off. And I'm just like, seriously? Like, why do black people have to make a fool of themselves? Why do you seek so much validation? It's like you don't know you're black until a black movie comes out like that. Then all of a sudden you're black for a couple of days. You put on your dashikis and all this stuff. And it's insulting because it comes off as though you're putting on a costume for the day. If you ever heard of a thing called Comic-Con, and Comic-Con is where a majority of whites get together and they put on their favorite superhero's costume, and they know it's make-believe, but they know it's not real, but they put on their costumes for a time and celebrate their favorite superheroes. So to me, y'all doing that is a little bit offensive to Africans. okay? Because you're putting on this whole thing so you can get some views and likes to your post, and it comes off as though you're putting on a costume from a movie. Then go around proclaiming Wakanda forever, and y'all never heard of Wakanda. Y'all can't even find it on the map. Y'all know where it is. Y'all don't even know what a Black Panther is, and some of y'all debating on whether Black Panther is a leopard and all of that stuff. Black Panthers come in various variations, so leopards and jaguars are a form of Black Panther, okay? So anyway, y'all are too much, okay? There's other black superheroes that came out. This movie was basically a marketing scheme that Marvel did, and they are benefiting from it more than any of you are, okay? And it's sad because Birth of a Nation with Nat Turner was majority black producers and writers and so forth for that movie, and that movie didn't get y'all attention. That's messed up. And this is Black History Month, so Black Panther, a superhero Marvel comic book hero, is getting more attention than Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, Thurgood Marshall, all these real black heroes in your history. And y'all debating on whether or not Black Panther correctly portrayed your whatever heritage or African whatever. It's a movie. Anyway, that's my take on this whole thing. I have more to say, but it really ain't worth all my time. I just wanted to share my thoughts.